What's up, guys? Mark here from Renegade Supply, and I'm super stoked to bring you something that we've never done before, but something that we're going to try to introduce a little bit more of. Sitting down with a very inspirational person today, someone who I think has a lot to teach everyone in that, dreams are real and that dreams can be achieved. And I think that for a lot of the public, and that's of course something that we're trying to promote, is that everyone can achieve their dreams. It just takes a lot of work. And you are actually walking, talking, living proof that if you do the work, you can achieve your dreams. So I want to introduce you guys to Morgan Burks, and I want to let Morgan tell a little bit about himself, and we're going to dive into sort of what he does and how he got here and what this whole journey means to him. So tell us a little bit about yourself, Morgan.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me, Mark.
Oh, absolutely.
It's an honor to be here. And my name is Morgan. I grew up here in Ashe County where Renegade's at. Mark was actually one of my football coaches back in the day.
Way back when.
Yeah, almost 15 years ago now.
That's wild.
I know.
I wish you hadn't said that.
I know, it's wild. So, one of my best friends now works for Mark, so we've kind of been reunited like that, and I love what he's doing, and I'm just so honored to be here and be called an inspirational person, man. That's very humbling for me. But I grew up here in Ashe County, went to Appalachian State, and I've been officiating and working for the last couple of years now. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of the piece of the puzzle that we're bringing Morgan in for, is that and I don't want to get ahead, but tell us what your childhood dream was.
Yeah, so my childhood dream was probably just play college football.
Okay.
At the time I was it was very tunnel vision. It wasn't to have a family or anything like that. Most kids aren't thinking about
sure,
that.
Yeah.
I just wanted to play college football. I wanted to go to school, I didn't really have a job in mind at the time, but it was just all football. I wanted to be a ref like Dad. I always wanted to do that, so that was just kind of a given. Because my dad was in it for so long.
Sure.
But yeah, it was just football. Football has always just been the dream.
Okay, and so therefore that what your dad's time spent officiating, and your dad officiated at what level?
So Dad did FBS football, so he was in the Western Athletic Conference, and then he ended up in the Southeastern Conference for a year.
Oh, nice.
So
that's the pinnacle.
About as big as it gets.
Yeah. Especially in the college game, it doesn't get much bigger than the SEC. So so that's awesome. So I guess that your dad's time in officiating sort of influenced you and made you want to sort of follow that path and be involved in football in some regard. If you couldn't make it as a player, you had sort of in your mind that maybe you'd come back and officiate or something to that effect, right?
He always would reiterate to me you can't play this forever. And he was kind of honest with me in the regard, probably not going to go to the NFL or whatever.
Sure.
Anything. So you got to think about something else. And his big thing was, when everyone he went to school with is sitting around on a Saturday, you can still be out there on that field and be a part of it.
And that to me is one of the coolest things, because I grew up not in a household where my dad was involved in college athletics or anything like that, but football has definitely been a part of my childhood from the time that I can remember. We used to travel all around the state. A Friday night, me and my dad were somewhere watching football. I've been all over the state of North Carolina, and not to officiate like you do, but a big game Richmond County versus Charlotte Independence when Chris Leak was there.
Mm-hmm.
We drove down and just to experience that. So a huge football fan myself, and I think that it's super cool that now you actually get to spend Saturdays still on the field, and while it's maybe not in the capacity that you had dreamed when you were a kid, you're still involved. And that's why I think that you're truly inspirational, is because you're still continuing to do the thing. You're still involved in what it is that you set out to be involved in.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that that's super cool for you. So what were some of the biggest challenges maybe in your life outside of the career?
Yeah, I think just growing up in a place like Ashe County, there's a lot of poverty. There's a lot of educational troubles like that. We had home troubles, there was some problems at home. So getting through those and working through those as a young man, and then trying to stay on a path was really difficult. And lot to overcome, lot to grow. I would say that was probably the most difficult part of my life. I would say just being a kid.
Right.
It's hard for every kid these days.
It's definitely not easy being a kid, and I think that we, looking back on it, we think that it's easy now because life just gets harder as you get older. I think because there's more and more challenges, and we look back on it with such simplicity, and childhood seems to be so easy, but at the time, you know nothing, you're trying to figure everything out. Like you're a product of your environment and your upbringing, and you don't have opinions, and like it's really challenging. So and I agree. And being from here, really, really small town, really small place, that's an added challenge, especially when you're trying to break into something that's competitive, that is a very small market. I mean, because if you're talking about D1 officials, like how many D1 officials do you think there are?
I'd say there's probably less than 2,000.
Okay, and that's wild, and you're one of the 2,000.
I'm lucky enough for
and that's why you're here, man. Like that's what we love about the story, and that's why I wanted to get you on this and to convey the message to our followers that look, this seemed unachievable, and it really wasn't. I mean, it's not been easy. It's not it's taken a lot of time, and it's taken a lot of grit and a lot of energy and a lot of consistency and a lot of hustle, but it's definitely achievable.
Anything's achievable.
Oh yeah. So how do you think that the challenges that you faced as a kid shaped you to become the man that you are in the places that the place where you're at now?
Yeah, well, I think it started with like a choice one day when I was like in my late 20s, maybe early 20s, where things weren't probably going the way I wanted to, and I realized like it was a lot of learned behavior from growing up, and you really got to make a choice, like, do I want to do better? And so I just started thinking about the past and thinking about all those hardships, and I was like, like life's gonna just continue this road if I don't change. And I think just looking back on the past and just being honest about it and understanding like what really happened to you as a kid, like some of the choices you might have made as a kid, like, and just changing that behavior, that I think that shaped me more. You kind of have to shape yourself.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, so just being real honest with what happens to you and what you've been through, and then trying to change it. I think that's key.
So what's been some of the hardest moments in the officiating journey? Like, was it breaking in? Is it getting to the next level? Like, what's been the hardest parts of the officiating journey?
Yeah, well, getting to the next level is extremely hard. I mean, it's so competitive. Like, you've got, like I said, I told you earlier, it's like a pyramid.
Sure.
And down here, you've got hundreds of thousands of high school officials, and everyone wants to go ref the ACC championship game, right?
Of course.
I mean, and everyone thinks they're ready to do it, and it's you just don't realize is how much you need to know, how much you really got to learn your rules and stay in there. I mean, you have to network with so many people, so that's a huge challenge. I mean, finding an employer that is willing to let you leave early on a Friday to go officiate a high school game and get there, that's tough.
That's something that I didn't really consider.
Yeah, I mean, finding a partner who's okay with that, because you're gone on Friday night, and now I'm gone. I'm still gone on Friday night to fly out, and I'm gone, Saturday, and I sometimes get home late on Sunday.
Sure.
And I mean, that's 12 weeks minimum out of the year, so that's tough. And then, financially, it was extremely hard. High school game, you make like 70, 60, $70, $80, and I mean, you gotta leave at 2 p.m., drive all the way there. They don't pay your gas. So, I mean, financially, it's challenging.
Sure.
I lost money for like the first 10 years, so.
And that's wild to me that there's so many high school officials, and there's really not any money in it, and it's
tough.
So do you think that most high school officials are doing it just for the love of the game, or do you think that a lot of high school officials have bigger aspirations?
No, I definitely think they're doing it for the love of the game.
Okay.
I mean, this is, like I said, you're not getting rich.
Yeah.
You're definitely probably not doing I say like you're not doing what you want to do. We are doing what you want to do, but like you're gonna miss out on some things. Like your buddies want to go do something, go do a golf thing. Like you're saying no, like I gotta do this, and like that's a choice. So yeah, like I really think like we want to be out there. We love the game of football, and like we just want to be a part of it. We want to be a part of that big game. We want to be like, oh, I was there when Dudley beat Grimsley in double overtime. Like that's cool. Like we want to be a part of that.
Yeah, absolutely. That's awesome. What are the most gratifying moments that you've experienced in officiating?
Yeah, I think just like when you get that, like when the coaches tell you like you've done a good job, or when your coordinator tells you you've done a good job, and you see these kids develop, like later on you see them on TV. Like I got to ref like Daniel Jones, I can't think of his name right now, but he played at UNC, plays for Washington Redskins now. Quarterback down there, but Sam Howell.
Okay, yeah.
And I got to ref guys like that, and like it's just really cool to see those kids when they're young and they're just kids, and now you see them like they're multimillionaires, and you see like they're still humble, and you see all the good things they're doing. Like that's super gratifying. And then just mastering the craft and just getting better and better is really big to me. Like just continued to grow, because like it's such a complicated game and it's such a hard task. I'm really drawn to just walking off that field knowing like I got better, and And like this was, or like you have that double overtime game and you've got to make that super like hard call at the end that might decide like who's state champion.
That pass interference call that nobody wants to throw the flag.
Yeah, you got to step up and make that call, man.
Absolutely, yeah.
That's tough to do sometimes.
Oh, I'm sure, yeah. And I hadn't really considered the fact that you are getting to work with like future superstars. Like they're sprinkled in there. They're few and far between because being a superstar is that's not what everybody's going to do, and it's not what most people are going to do. But you're actually getting to see some kids that are now in the big show and are doing the thing, man, and that's awesome.
Yeah, well, being the CIP now, I'm actually, some of these guys go to the next level. I mean, high school was one thing, but like, when you go into this Division I college football, like, there's a couple guys out there that got what it takes, and you see some really good athletes.
That's amazing. Mm-hmm. So what is, this is something that I've wondered for a long time. Like, what does the training regiment to be an official look like? Like, is it like all year long? Are there courses that you have to take? Like, do you, and I know that every year there's like rule changes and like all this different stuff. So is it like a year round kind of thing, or does it, do you go in like summer and like cram hardcore to get the new curriculum, so to speak, or like how's that work?
No, that's a really good question. I mean, I guess everyone's kind of got their own way they do it, but you really should. It's all year long. I mean, through that, obviously we have a season, and then you kind of have this time period off between like, late November to spring, where I just was like at East Carolina last weekend doing a scrimmage to kind of dust the cobwebs off. But like, really, if you want to be great, you've got to always be in that rule book at least once a week doing questions, because I mean, if you don't use it, you will lose it,
right?
Type thing. And I mean, it's tough, and like no one's making you do this. Like the coordinators don't make you like, they'll send out some tests that we have to do, but like no, like that's not enough to like really, keep your head in the game.
Yeah.
So you've got to constantly be putting that time aside every day. Like I try to at least 3 times a week, spend like an hour, 2 hours, like just doing questions, just simple scenarios, things like that, reading my the ARs in the back of the rule book, so which are applied rulings. So just like they give you like little cases of like what would happen, and there's like a play, and then like this is what this ruling would be, like real in-game scenarios. Like you just got to keep fresh. And then there's spring football, and there's all these clinics you do like for the ACC and all these other conferences, and you go network with those guys, and they fly NFL guys in, and they do like seminars. So like I think you really got to do all that to really be at the top of the game now.
Sure, yeah, and that's probably what sets you apart from, because you say like a lot of people aren't doing it, and that's why you're having success, and some other people are never going to leave the high school game because they'll go and officiate a high school game on Friday, maybe a high school game on Thursday, and then forget about it until they're forced to go back at the end of the summer to learn rule changes and things like that. And that I really think that probably is what sets you apart from that's why you're climbing the ladder, and that's why you're going to wind up in the ACC and hopefully the NFL. Is that a dedication to a craft, exactly like what you said. So you mentioned a coordinator. Is that like your boss? Is that like a booking agent? Like what's the coordinator?
Yeah, so every conference has a coordinator, and that guy, he basically he hires all the officials. He assigns the games. Like we have a crew, so we have a 7. We should have an 8-man crew next year for my division in the FCS. But he hires you. He gives you your schedule. He evaluates you. He can fire you. Okay. He cannot hire you back. We're all on 1-year contracts, so every year we technically get fired, and we signed a 1099 again, and we're contracted by the conference, and we're not really hired by the NCAA. But yeah, every conference has a coordinator, and he kind of runs the show, and he's got all the power in that league.
That's awesome. I mean,
make that guy happy.
It's kind of awesome. It's kind of stressful at the same time, I'm sure.
It is.
That's interesting. I didn't realize that there was like one person in charge of like all of it. So you say you got like a 7 or 8-man crew. Is it always the same guys? Do you get to build like a real rapport with those guys, or is it like a rotation of they'll be in? And of course, I'm sure that like somebody winds up sick, there's a substitute or something like that. But do you always wind up with like the same 7-man crew or 8-man crew?
Yeah. So like we're assigned an 8-man crew, and then obviously stuff happens. Sometimes somebody might get pulled up to go work like a big game because he's getting looked at. So we might get a fill-in. There's alternates, but yeah, mostly you're with the same 7 to 8 guys every week, which is awesome. Because like in high school, we were always different. Sure. So this, like, you really get to know those guys, how they officiate. You get to really build, like, the best thing about this is just like the brotherhood. We have each other's backs. Like when we're going in there, it's stressful. It's 20,000 people. No one side hates us every other call.
Exactly.
So like we got no friends. And it's you got to rely on these guys, and you might have something crazy happen in the game, and you got to huddle and be like, all right, guys, like, who knows this one?
Yeah, we gotta get this right.
You know? And you got to trust. And sometimes one of those guys might come in and bail us all out, and you're just like, okay, I think Joe's got the answer. We're going with Joe.
Yeah.
You know, and you got to really trust these guys because you got 10, 15 seconds to figure it out.
Sure.
You know, so
that's high stress, man.
Yeah.
And it could be a real crucial moment in a game. You know, I mean, it might be a call that really doesn't affect anything, but a lot of times, you know, it's a big moment in the game. That's got to be super stressful, but also like what makes it exciting and kind of like the adrenaline and
you gotta be a little nuts. I think,
I think that's awesome.
You gotta like that.
So what's your kind of end game as a ref? Like what's your goal to?
I mean, like it sounds cliche to say, but like my goal is just to be the best like in my league right now. But I guess, you know, thinking long term, like if I could just like set my destiny, it would be the NFL. Like, I mean, that's the pinnacle. I think almost anybody wants to do that.
Sure.
But if I had just worked in Power 5 for the rest of my life, I'd be just happy with that.
Sure, yeah.
You know, just calling these big time games, calling a national championship game, you know, in January would be
slick, man.
Would be incredible, man.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
It'd be awesome.
Do you find yourself, like, it being that you are an official, do you find yourself, do you watch games differently as an official than just like a regular spectator?
Man. Yeah, I'll be like, oh, why is that center judge? I'm a center judge, so I'm the guy who's always holding up the substitutions and backpedaling out of there. So I'll be like, you know, like, oh, his backpedal kind of looks bad. He kind of looks awkward. Like, I'm really critical.
Okay.
I don't watch the football a lot, and I think a lot of people kind of watch where the football goes.
Sure.
And I'm watching kind of, you definitely watch the game completely different. And like when something's going on out there, I'll just like, or the crew's huddling together, and you know, they're kind of like not figuring out. You're just kind of like, oh man, like I feel so bad. For these guys right now,
you feel empathy for what they're going through because you know that they're trying to get it right, and it's like,
it's happened to us.
Yeah,
like,
you've been there.
Yeah,
that's awesome, man. Like, what's your end goal in life? Like outside of officiating, like where would you like to end up? You know, as a man.
Yeah, as a man, you know, I'm getting married soon. So
nice, congrats.
Thank you. I'm super excited. She's an incredible woman, and she supports all this. So, and that's key to making everything happen. But yeah, I want to be a dad. I want to have really healthy children, and just, you know, have something to leave behind that they're proud of. I mean, that's what's most important to me. You know, I can make $1 million officiating or whatever it is, but like, that's paramount, man.
Sure.
You know, that's the end goal. Just having a little homestead with some cows and some chickens and some healthy kids, and life's gonna be great.
Heck yeah.
You know?
Heck yeah. I think that's, you know, I mean, for a lot of people, that probably is the end game. And for some people, they're probably more worried about monetary, but that's probably the most important thing, you know?
Yeah.
Just to build a life that you love and a life that you're happy with and proud of, and something that you've worked hard for, you know? I think that kind of gets lost in a lot of people. Is it doesn't matter how we get it, but there's something very gratifying about it whenever you've actually like chased it down.
Yeah, and I think on top of that is just to have some sort of like influence, you know, on, and not so much on like in a large scale, but just like communally, you know, just being able to help younger officials, you know, one day, or people in my community, maybe you know, volunteer more, you know, just put myself in a position where I can really give back. Sure. I think that's super important too.
I think that's, I would agree with that 100%. And that's kind of what we're trying to do with this is, you know, we want to be able to give back. I want to be able to impact the community. I want to be able to impact kids that feel like they don't have a choice, you know, of kids that, because, you know, I know growing up, like so much of what I wanted seemed so unachievable. You know, and I've not achieved everything, but I'm achieving some of it, you know, and I never would have thought that I would have done some of the things that I've already done. And I think that a lot of kids never have a glimpse of hope, you know, and if you can give somebody a glimpse of hope and just be like, look, if I can do it, you can do it. And I think that that's super important. So like hats off to you for that.
I mean, all it takes sometimes is just one man or one woman coming up to you and just be like, hey, like, I see potential in you, and that can change everything.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, just being that voice for somebody.
For sure. So how do you feel about, I mean, is there ever any interest in becoming like a coordinator or becoming like, you know, someone who, you know, something like that? Have you ever really thought about that?
Yeah, I think I'd like that eventually, because you know you can't stay on the field forever either.
Sure.
So like mostly the coordinators are like retired guys who can't, you know, have been asked to retire. Like, you know, they're in their 60s, and it's hard on your body.
Absolutely.
Thing. You know,
I mean, you're running down the field with college athletes.
Yeah, I run like 10 miles a game. You know, put my fiance's Apple Watch on, and I'm like 10 miles in the first half. Like what? You know,
whoa, that's wild.
It gets hard when you're 65. So yeah, sure. I could totally. Because because I really do like, you know, having that influence, like helping a guy like me one day, and just like my coordinators help me, like giving me an opportunity to be one of the youngest guys in the league, and just like really, you know, changing my life, and like being able to change somebody else's life and help them out. Yeah, I could totally see myself being a coordinator.
Is there anything that's sort of like I know that you go through trainings that are like already in place, but is it possible that you could be like that you could have like your own thing where you do like official training, where people that want to become an official but maybe they don't know where to start, or they don't have their foot in the door, like they're just getting started, where you had this like little school, like the Morgan Burks School of Officiating?
Yeah.
Or is there such a thing as that?
Yeah, well, they've already got a lot about that, and that's really what's changed, I think, in the last like 10, 15 years of officiating. It used to just be kind of like a real informal thing where like, oh, like this guy is pretty good in high school, so like let's give him a shot. But now like you've really got all these high-end officials in the Power 5 and the NFL, like they put on these clinics that you kind of got to go pay a lot of money to.
Okay.
Like some of it's good, some of it's bad in my opinion. I've mixed emotions about
Sure.
that, because for some people like putting that money up is really hard.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I mean, I would love to be involved as a clinician doing that, but like I really personally I wouldn't think I would take a lot of money doing something like that, but I would, if ever they gave me that platform to come be a clinician at one of those like Blue Ridge football clinic that I just did, like I would love to get in front of guys like myself and like just spread the knowledge and wealth on them.
Yeah.
Like, I would love to do that stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely, man.
Yeah, it would be sort of a way to give back, you know, to give back to a future generation, or to people who maybe are trying to dabble into it to see if they like it, or you know, to people who are already in it and are looking to do better. I think that's
and it's such a
awesome
selfless
too.
craft. Like, you know, we've all got our own like, you know, pre-snap routine. We've all got like what works for us on the field, and like everyone I've talked to is just always so open about just telling them like what works for them. Like no one's like keeping secrets, like, oh, how do you get into this conference? Like everyone's just so open, like here's what happened to me, and like that's what I love about it, because like we're just all trying to help each other grow.
And most trades aren't like that. Like
No,
most trades, like it's real secretive. You know, if I feel like if I give you a pointer, you're gonna get a leg up, and then that hurts me. That's awesome that community sort of like, it's all about building each other up and like helping each other out. That's amazing. Like that gives me a brand new like appreciation for officials, for like officiating as a whole, just in that it seems like you're all trying to climb the ladder, so it would be uber competitive. But the fact that, I mean, you're all trying to climb the ladder and it is uber competitive, but you're still like slowing down enough to be like, look, you know, you're helping each other out. That's really inspiring.
Like my mentor in the ACC, he really helped me get this opportunity. Like talking with my coordinator, he kind of put me on his radar, and he told, after I got the call, I called him and I told him I got the call. He's like, I knew you were gonna get it. He's like, thanks for calling me. And he's like, now it's your turn. He's like, when you're in my spot, you have to pull someone up now along the way, and that's really, you gotta pay it forward. And that's really kind of the philosophy.
That is awesome. That's incredible. I think that we missed, what league is it that you officiated for last year?
Yeah, so it's actually 3 conferences. It's it was formerly called the Colonial, but now it's called the Coastal, Ivy League, which are the 8 Ivy League schools, and then the Patriot League. So it's called the CIP.
Okay, nice. And so you stepped foot on campuses that most people only dream of stepping foot on.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, when you hear Ivy League, that's a different level, you know? And I mean, it's not always thought of as like the most athletic level, but that's a level of education that is kind of unmatched in our country. And that had to be a super cool experience for you to step on the field at Harvard. And so what schools did you officiate at last year?
So last year, in terms of Ivy League, I went to the Yale Bowl, which at the time, it holds like 60,000. It's all wood. It's built into the ground. At the time, it was the biggest bowl ever built, and it's all original. So that was really cool. I went to University of Pennsylvania. I went to Brown, and then I went to Princeton. So
that's so cool.
It was really cool. Princeton Stadium is awesome. It was really surreal walking through there. You know, I was on the Yale campus. Like the closest this guy was ever going to get to an Ivy League school was.
Oh, yo, me too,
was
brother.
That, man. So it just like, I never thought in a million years, like growing up in that little Ashe County, little, you know, place in the corner of North Carolina, like I'd get this opportunity to get paid to go fly up and just walk these campuses and just be a part of that. Like it was incredible, man.
That's awesome. And so did you spend a little time just like soaking in the campus and enjoying it? Yeah.
Yeah, like I took my fiance to one, and you know, we few hours. Like we have to get to the school about 3 or 4 hours before the game, but we left like maybe 7 hours. We went to the bookstore, buy some stuff, like a Yale hoodie or whatever. It's funny enough, people like ask me all the time, like when I'm wearing it in the gym, you should go to Yale. It's like, not quite,
I've been there.
Yeah, I've been there. And in some way I've gone to Yale. But yeah, you got to soak it in. Like we were just sitting in the courtyard of Brown University, just on some lawn chairs while school was going around, just like beautiful, just, the campuses are just gorgeous. And like, we're just sitting there just kind of taking it. It's like, there's so much history, so much, legacy here, and just like to be a part of it, it was cool, man.
That's amazing.
It was cool.
And so do you know right now, as we sit here, do you know that you'll be in that same CIP league next year? Have you already signed a contract for that?
No, not yet. So technically, but no, I've already been told I'm coming back. They're gonna offer me again, but that'll happen in August, I think. Okay. But as far as I know, I'm coming back.
And will you get to visit campuses next year that you didn't get to visit this year?
Yeah, I'll probably go back to a couple of the same schools, but between those 3 leagues, there's probably close to 30 schools. So there's a lot of places I can still go.
That's awesome. That's fantastic. So kind of like moving away from officiating just a little bit, but what does legacy mean to you, and what do you hope to make your legacy?
Yeah, like I touched on earlier, just being I want something to leave behind, whether it's a memory, whether it's like that house I talked about, that homestead. It's not necessarily monetary, but just I want to leave behind an opportunity and just a memory, like the memory that Morgan Burks was a guy of integrity, and he meant what he said, and he helped a lot of people. I mean, that's the biggest thing to me.
That's awesome.
And I think that's truly what makes someone happy. I don't think you can hand someone $10 million or whatever it is, or beach house, $25 million. Like, that doesn't make you happy, man.
Yeah.
Like being able to people to back you up and to have your back, and it's like, no, like that's a man of his word, and that guy's a real deal. Like, that's all I want.
Yeah.
I think that's what it's all about.
I agree 100% with that, man. What advice would you give to somebody who's trying to make strides in their life or trying to chase down their dreams? Not necessarily in officiating. Let's make it 2 parts. Let's lead off with in officiating. What advice would you give to somebody who's trying to break into officiating?
I would say you can't see too many snaps. So an example is, last 5 years, and Wesley knows this very well, because I call him on the road all the time, but I would work a JV game on a Thursday night. I'd go work a varsity game on Friday, and I'd drive 6 hours to Shenandoah in Virginia and call a college game in the ODAC, and then I'd drive back that same day, get home at 2 a.m., wake up the next morning on a Sunday at like 5 or 6 a.m. and I go call what they call JV football, which is like even lower level of those D3 schools. And I'd work 4 games like that, just exhausted, probably put thousands of miles on my truck every weekend.
Wow.
And football's not like basketball, where you can go do AAU and you can just see all these snaps anytime of the year. Like, it's one season. You have to get on. Experience is everything. So I would say tons of snaps and just patience. Like, it takes a long time. It's super competitive, and the coordinators know that you need this experience, and you're not gonna do 2 years in Charlotte high school football, which is great football, and then go to the ACC.
Sure.
It's not gonna happen.
Yeah, that's just not what happens.
No, it's not.
There's a natural progression to things, and that's not it, right?
No, and just be confident.
Yeah.
You can get it's a complicated game, and the mastery of the rules takes a long time, but just be confident that you're heading in the right direction, and I think that's key. Just confidence.
That's awesome. How many? I don't want to bust your bubble, especially not here towards the end of the interview. But do you recall calls that that you screwed up haunt you?
Yeah, not too many that haunt me. I can't say I feel like I really just messed up a game too bad, but yeah, there's some this year alone, my first year in the CIP, I called an unsportsmanlike in my first game, and probably had no business calling it, and my coordinators let me know, dude, this, you don't do this at this level, and the coach is all pissed off about it, and that those things kind of haunt me. Incorrect calls kind of haunt you sometimes,
but it's a learning experience, like you said.
It is, man. And we're not perfect.
Yeah,
and
err is human.
Yeah, and these kids aren't perfect either, and just the quarterback's gonna throw an interception, man, I'm gonna botch a hold. It's gonna happen, man.
You could call holding on every play. I feel like.
Oh, absolutely.
You can legit call a holding call, on every single snap of every single football game that's probably ever been played through eternity.
Mm-hmm.
So that's that's awesome that you're not necessarily haunted by those things, because I always say that like I'm really good at like when things are done, and I don't really, I learn a lesson from them, but I don't like dwell on them. I don't let my past sort of like creep back in and make decisions for me now.
Yeah, they'll like might haunt me until I get home, and I can like oh, man, I'm not sure, because we don't get to see the film until we get back, and I'll just be like, man, I know I messed it up. Like that might be tough, and then like you might get like really drilled on it in your grading, and then for a week you might just be like, I can't believe I did that, but you have to let it go.
You have to put it behind you. It's like a quarterback throwing an interception. If you don't let it go, you're going to throw 3 more.
But I think letting it haunt you is like, it just shows how much you care. Because like we strive to master this, and that's like it shows you care. And like if you don't carry it with you, it's like people ask me all the time, like, doesn't all the crazy fans and all that stuff, like the craziness and the emotion, doesn't that like scare you? It's like, no, like it shows that people care. Yeah. And once people stop caring about this, like the sport's going to die.
That's a very good point. Without the electric atmosphere and the crazy fans, and
that's why we're there, man.
Yeah, that's what makes it, right? I mean, that's what makes it all together.
Yeah.
No, that's amazing. So that's pretty much all of the questions that I had for you. Again, I think that you're super inspirational, man, and I know that it's probably not something that you would think of yourself as inspirational, but you're out here, you're doing what you set out to do. You understand that it does take time, and it does take work, and it does take persistence and consistency and all those kinds of things. And for that, man, my hat's off to you. And I can't wait to see you one day, like in the ACC championship game, or hopefully even on Sunday. I'd hope to be watching a Lions game someday and be like, is that Burks?
Hey, I hope so too. I hope you'll be at one, man.
Oh heck yeah, dude! Dude, if you ever officiate an NFL game, I definitely want to be there. That would be be hype, man. That would be so cool. So thanks again for sitting down with me, dude. And keep after it, man. I can't wait to see where you wind up and watch you continue to climb the ladder. Proud of you, dude.
Same to you, man.
Yeah, thanks.
Same.
Man.
Thanks for having me, man.
Absolutely.